An orange notice stapled to an oak door. The door was hand-carved, 185 years old. Bold print, unpaid dues, failure to comply, $3,580. A white Cadillac SUV parked on the dirt road. Bleanne Hargrove stepped out, sunglasses, white blazer, iPhone raised sideways, snapping photos of the wooden door, the porch, the fence. She swiped through the screen, typing notes, like she was inventorying someone else's property. Garrett stepped onto the porch. Bleanne didn't look up, still typing. "Mr. Weston, this is the last time we notify you in advance." Then she raised her head, looked him dead in the face, eyes cold. The look of someone about to sign a demolition order, pointed at the oak door. "This doesn't pass code. This house is a hazard to the entire neighborhood. Cracked walls, rotting porch, doesn't meet safety standards. We've already filed a request with the county for a structural inspection. If it fails, the county will order demolition." Demolition. She just said demolition. The house Elijah Weston stacked stone by stone with his bare hands. Through the Civil War, through the Great Depression, through 2 floods, standing for 185 years. And a realtor who moved here 4 years ago, who'd never set foot on a dirt road before buying in this county, called it unsafe. Garrett looked at her, calmly peeled the orange notice off the door, folded it, precise creases, looked her straight in the eye, no anger, no fear, no pleading, folded it again, slipped it into his flannel pocket, didn't say a word. Bleanne stepped onto the porch, tapped her fingernail on the wooden post. "This wood is rotting, you know that." She touched the 185-year-old door, then wiped her hand on a tissue, like she'd touched something dirty. "You should have joined when we were still being polite. Now it's $3,580, 60 days, or we let the county handle it." She tucked the tissue into her blazer pocket, turned around, walked past the shadow of the oak tree in the front yard without looking down. The oak tree Garrett's father planted the day his son was born. Car door slammed, gravel sprayed under the tires. $3,580 fine, threat of demolition, wiped her hand after touching someone else's home. And a 63-year-old man standing on his porch. No rage, no trembling hands, no phone calls. Just folded the paper along the creases and put it in his pocket. That kind of calm isn't surrender. That kind of calm only belongs to someone who knows exactly where she just went wrong. She demanded $3,580 from a house she had no right to touch. She'd pay $125,000 for touching it. But the money isn't the best part. The best part is in the county records. I got this story from a civil engineer in Harlan County. He called, voice low, the kind of voice someone uses when they've just witnessed something they need to tell you immediately. "You know about the Weston farm? The HOA president put a lien on the old man's house. His house predates the subdivision by 150 years. I asked, "Then what?" He laughed. She didn't know what that old man used to be. I read the county records. There was one detail, small, buried on page 3, that I nearly scrolled past. The county had said no to the HOA. A full year earlier, she filed the lien anyway. Someone messaged me after reading. "I just checked my deed for the first time in 12 years. Someone tagged a friend. "Check if your house actually belongs to your HOA. Why does a retired old man read a lien notice and squint like he's reading a survey map? Why does he fold paperwork along precise creases? The kind of fold only someone who's done it thousands of times would make. When you understand that, you'll see Bleanne Hargrove never stood a chance. Follow the channel, because when that 2021 denial letter gets laid out on the table, she'll wish she'd checked the county records before picking up the staple gun. A 185-year-old oak door, an orange notice stapled to it, the same door Garrett's father locked every night for 40 years. And that door didn't even shake. The house was built of stone, hand-stacked, one piece at a time, in 1839. 185 years. 6 generations of men walked through that door. Photos lining the hallway. Elijah, Grant, Thomas, Harold, Robert, then Garrett. 4 years ago, Oakwood Estates went up across the road. 47 houses, iron gate, gold-plated sign. Bleanne Hargrove, transferred from a gated community in Nashville, elected herself HOA president. Her husband was a realtor, selling homes in the very same subdivision. Bleanne knocked on Garrett's door. "We protect property values for the entire area. You'd benefit." Garrett shook his head. "Thank you. My house isn't part of the HOA." Bleanne smiled. "We'll ask again." 6 months later, an orange lien notice on his door, $3,580. 2 weeks after that, attorney letter. 60 days, full compliance or foreclosure proceedings. Foreclosure. On a house that was never part of the HOA. That farm is a cancer on this neighborhood. You're costing your neighbors money just by existing here. She didn't just fine Garrett. In 2019, Bleanne typed up an internal resolution. No attorney reviewed it, no attorney signed it, and filed it with the county herself. Any property within the visual corridor must comply with aesthetic standards. Trash can facing the wrong way, $200 fine. The Hendersons painted their door the wrong shade. That's ivory lace, not antique cream. Repaint. Henderson repainted within the week. 3 neighbors outside the HOA got letters. 3 neighbors got scared. 3 neighbors complied. 4 years. Nobody said no to Bleanne Hargrove. Then she looked across the road at 42 acres. Old wooden fence, uncut wildflowers, a 185-year-old oak door, no paint, no polish. In Bleanne's eyes, an eyesore. The thing dragging her husband's listing prices down. Garrett Weston, 63, wife passed 5 years ago, father passed 8 years, living alone. Every morning he made coffee, sat on the porch, watched the wildflowers sway, waiting for no one, calling no one. He didn't want to fight. He just wanted to sit on his father's porch. 60 days. And Bleanne just told him his existing was the problem. Evening. The hallway. Garrett walked past the black and white photo on the wall, his father standing in front of the house, the day he inherited it from Garrett's grandfather. That photo had been there since before Garrett could walk, thousands of times walking past it. Today, for the first time in years, he stopped. His father holding his hand, building the fence when Garrett was 7. "This land is our blood, son." Garrett looked at the photo, looked at the kitchen drawer, 2 papers sitting in there. Looked back at the photo. "I spent 31 years reading other people's property lines. I'm not losing my own." Next morning, county records office, front counter. Garrett stood waiting, flannel shirt, cloth cap, looking like a farmer asking for directions. "I'd like to see the parcel records for lot 47B, plat code number 2291-18-4403. The clerk, 20s, new, looked up. "New archive system, not fully digitized yet. It'll take 2 weeks. Garrett nodded, didn't argue, walked out. 2 weeks felt like 2 months. Second letter from the HOA attorney. Final notice, 41 days remaining. Garrett sat in the kitchen, 3 papers in the drawer now. "I'm 63 years old. I don't have the energy for this." Bleanne's voice in his head. "You should have joined when we were still being polite." Nearly gave up. Then he looked back at his father's photo, stood up, drove back to the county. This time, Garrett didn't stop at the front counter. He asked to see the chief county engineer. Engineer's office, maps on the walls, smell of old paper and photocopy ink. Tom Hendricks, county engineer, 50s, spotted the name Weston on the request form. Weston? As in the Weston farm? Garrett nodded. "I remember that one." Tom opened his computer, scrolled through files, stopped. An admin clerk walked in, glanced at Garrett. "You used to work here, didn't you?" Garrett nodded, didn't explain. Tom pulled up 3 things. First, the survey plats. Garrett opened them. Eyes scanning, fast, right to left, the way someone reads a map when they've read thousands. Garrett's property line here, HOA boundary there, a quarter-mile apart. No overlap, not close, not even touching. Second, a copy of Bleanne's 2019 resolution filed with the county. Garrett read it. Any property within the visual corridor must comply with aesthetic standards. He set it down. This was never reviewed by an attorney, not county counsel, not private. This is a personal opinion, typed up and filed as if it were law. Third, Tom placed the paper on the desk, gently, like setting down something heavier than its weight. Denial letter, 2021, Harlan County. The requested easement expansion would encroach on parcels not party to this application, including the Weston agricultural property, a historically recorded pre-plat parcel, and is therefore denied. Garrett read it again, not surprised, just nodded. The nod of someone confirming what they already suspected. They already knew. A full year before that orange notice showed up on my door, the county said no. She filed the lien anyway. Tom looked at Garrett. Garrett looked at the denial letter, looked up. I've read 10,000 of these. This one took me 30 seconds. Cut. Stop. I want you to picture this. 63 years old, widowed, living alone on the land your family has owned for 6 generations. And this morning, on the door your father locked every night for 40 years, there's a piece of paper saying you owe for the right to live on your own land. 60 days. Do you fight? Or do you say, I'm too tired, and sign? Garrett didn't go home. He went to a lawyer's office. Manila folder, 3 documents, survey plats, the 2019 resolution, the 2021 denial letter. The lawyer read them. 15 minutes. Looked up. Filing a fraudulent lien on property outside your jurisdiction, under Tennessee Code Section 66-11-110, is a felony. A serious one. Do you want to sue? I want my house's name off the debt records. You'll get a lot more than that. Cut. Bleanne struck back. Same week, 2 fronts. Front 1, certified letter from the HOA attorney. Failure to respond constitutes consent to lien enforcement. Front 2, complaint filed with the State Environmental Agency, accusing Garrett's wildflowers of being invasive species, fire hazard, rodent habitat. Garrett received both on the same day, sat in the kitchen, looked at 2 new papers, next to the 3 already in the drawer. 5 papers. For the first time in 185 years, a Weston considered selling the house. Then the Environmental Agency sent an inspector. The inspector walked through the wildflower meadow, stopped, knelt down, took photos, stood up, walked 10 more steps, knelt again, more photos. This is a certified wildflower meadow, exemplary habitat, under the state conservation program. Bleanne's complaint, instead of causing trouble, became a harassment report on her file. The woman who reported wildflowers as a health hazard, her complaint now sat on the inspector's desk, with her name on it. $3,580. That's what she valued 185 years of American history at. $3,580 of someone else's money. Bleanne's complaint backfired. The environmental report backfired. But she'd been doing this for 4 years, and Garrett wasn't her only target. Cut. Garrett's lawyer contacted neighbors in the subdivision. Discovery. Bleanne used the same visual corridor trick on 3 other families. Same resolution, same threat letters, same fines. Same result, scared, paid, silent. The Harrisons, $400 fine for a wooden fence that didn't meet aesthetic standards. The Morrisons, $750 for a kayak on their lawn. The Nguyen's, $300 for a clothesline visible from the road. Same playbook, same fear, same result, every time. The neighbors knew Bleanne was wrong. Mr. Harrison saw Garrett going to the county, knew he was fighting, but stayed quiet. Harrison was in an insurance dispute, didn't want more legal trouble. Mrs. Morrison heard about it, but her husband was about to retire, didn't want to make waves. Not malice, not quite indifference, just each person having exactly one reason, just enough not to speak. That's how silence works. Not cruelty, just the ordinary weight of personal consequence, pressing down on the impulse to speak up, until the impulse passes. Then Harrison saw the environmental report. Bleanne's complaint turned into harassment. Morrison read the news. For the first time in 4 years, someone stood up and won. Harrison called Garrett. If you need a witness, I'm in. Morrison called next. Me too. For the first time in 4 years, someone was standing with Garrett Weston. Tom Hendricks, the county engineer, agreed to personally attend the Harlan County Heritage Festival to confirm the denial letter if needed. A local historian, already planning to speak about pre-Civil War farmstead heritage at the festival. If you think the number $3,580 is absurd, wait for the next one. Subscribe. Harlan County Heritage Festival. 3 weeks away. Garrett Weston had a folder, 2 neighbors, and 1 county engineer. Bleanne Hargrove had a white Cadillac, a real estate license, and absolutely no idea what was coming. Outdoor festival. Long wooden tables, county flags, hundreds of people. Warm evening air, smell of cut grass and barbecue smoke drifting from the food tents. The local historian opened, speaking about Harlan County's farmstead heritage, the pre-Civil War stone houses. Before the paved roads, before the power lines, before anyone thought to put a gate around a neighborhood and call it a community. The crowd murmur faded to silence, then applause. Garrett sat in the middle row, manila folder on his lap. Bleanne arrived, white Cadillac SUV in the parking lot, sunglasses, white blazer. Walked into the festival like walking into a board meeting. Spotted Garrett, smiled. The farmer knows how to go to a festival. Then she took the mic, confident, back straight. I've been protecting this community for 4 years. Property values are up 12% since I took over. I'm not the villain here. I'm the only one who cares enough to act. Garrett stood up, slowly. No rush. Folder in hand. Stepped to the front. Opened the folder. First document, the survey plats, spread across the wooden table. My property line, their property line, a quarter-mile apart, no overlap. Second document, the 2019 resolution, placed next to the map. This document, self-typed, self-filed with the county, no attorney ever read it, no attorney ever signed it, is what Bleanne Hargrove used to tell 3 families they owed fines for rules she made up. Harrison nodded in the crowd. Morrison squeezed his wife's hand. Third document. Garrett pulled it out slowly, set it on the table, gently. The entire festival went quiet. In 2021, this HOA filed a request asking the county to extend jurisdiction over my property. This is the county's answer. He read, the requested expansion would encroach on parcels not party to this application, including the Weston agricultural property, a historically recorded pre-plat parcel, and is therefore denied. Garrett looked up, looked at Bleanne. The county already decided, before the lien, before the demand letters, before she stapled that orange notice to the door my family has locked every night for 185 years. You should have checked the county records before you filed that lien, ma'am. Silence. Bleanne opened her mouth. Closed it, opened it again. Where did you even get those records? Who gave you? I've read 10,000 documents like this. I used to write them. Garrett Weston, not a tired old farmer. Retired Harlan County surveyor. 31 years reading property plats, drawing boundary lines, writing zoning records. She tried to use the system to take his house. He was the system. Applause started, soft, then it spread. Tom Hendricks, the county engineer, stood up in the crowd, nodded, confirmed. Harrison stood, Morrison stood, then others, then more. Bleanne gripped her purse strap, sunglasses still on, but her lips pressed tight. A neighbor Bleanne had fined before shook Garrett's hand. I should have said something sooner. Garrett, you're saying it now. 185 years, 6 generations, a house that survived a war, a depression, and every storm God sent for nearly 2 centuries. And one woman with a 4-year-old HOA tried to take it with a $3,580 piece of paper. Bleanne Hargrove left the festival before it ended. She hasn't been seen at a board meeting since. But the numbers weren't done. Cut. Filing a fraudulent lien, violation of Tennessee Code Section 66-11-110, felony. Bleanne was charged. Garrett filed a civil suit, slander of title, harassment, emotional distress, 18 months of threats, demolition demands, environmental complaints, and a lien filed on a house outside her jurisdiction. Every line in the lawsuit, A piece of paper Garrett had folded along the creases, put in his pocket, and waited. Settlement. $125,000. $125,000. That's what it cost Oakwood Estates to learn that a farmhouse built before the Civil War doesn't take orders from a subdivision that can't spell easement. 3 board members, the ones who signed the 2019 resolution, resigned. The vice president, who signed the environmental complaint, resigned after the harassment report landed on her file. New board, properly elected. First action, formally acknowledged all non-HOA properties in the county corridor. Second action, voided the 2019 Visual Corridor Aesthetic Standards Resolution. Harlan County now has a new rule. HOAs must verify that a property is within their jurisdiction before filing any lien. The Garrett Weston case is the reason. And the wildflowers? The environmental report is now part of the county's conservation registry. Garrett's Wildflower Meadow, officially an exemplary habitat. The thing Bland called a rodent habitat is now an ecological landmark. 6 months later, Garrett still lives on the farm, still makes coffee in the morning, still sits on the porch. But something's different. Neighbors stop by. 2 families from the subdivision bring pie. Tom Hendricks sends a Christmas card. Garrett isn't alone anymore, even though he still lives alone. Oakwood Estates, by the way, still doesn't have a single oak tree. The Weston farm has 14. Bland Hargrove thought power came from a laminated card with a title on it, from a resolution nobody read, from a lien nobody verified. Garrett Weston knew better. Power comes from knowing where the lines are, and he'd spent 31 years drawing them. Afternoon, wildflowers swaying in the breeze. Garrett sits on the porch, his father's chair, every evening for decades. Coffee in hand. Late sun cutting across the meadow, lighting up the stone wall Elijah Weston stacked in 1839. For the first time in 8 years, Garrett talks to his father. Not loud. Just enough to hear, "House is still here, Dad. I kept it." If you're living in an HOA, or anyone's told you that you belong to one, check your deed. Check the county records. Because sometimes, the biggest defender of your property rights is a piece of paper you've never opened. Hit subscribe. Next video, an HOA finds a retired federal judge. She's 92, in a wheelchair. And the HOA doesn't know how many arrest warrants she's signed in her career. Send this to someone who needs to hear that 185 years always beats 4 years. Always. The stone house stands. No fresh paint needed. No approved palette. Just standing.